Hey guys, and welcome back to the show. I am your host, Megan Hardy, and founder of Fitness Uncharted, which is a women's health and fitness coaching company designed to help women lose body fat, build lean muscle, improve their metabolism, and feel empowered on their health and fitness journey. And today I've got a mindset episode for you guys. We're going to talk about the 24-hour rule for life-changing choices and how making decisions will change your life. And this comes up a lot of times in conversation with new clients of mine and current clients, and just honestly in my own life, the decision making process. And a lot of times our anxiety is produced by indecisiveness. That can actually be a culprit of anxiety when we are being indecisive. And people spend so much time weighing their options, afraid to take action because they're afraid of failure. And they think, they're doing the quote unquote safe thing, but in reality, it's that quote unquote safe thing that's actually hurting them and crippling their success, because progress does not happen in our comfort zones. So we feel like, okay, if I don't change anything up, like, okay, I may not make progress, but at least I won't hurt myself. But that's how you stay stuck. So let's unstuck yourself. And oftentimes we're afraid to make decisions because we're afraid we'll make the wrong decision. But my question to you is, just ask yourself, like, how many times have you made a decision in your life that was so horrible, like you couldn't recover from it? Like, if you're here today, then even your worst decisions probably weren't that bad. And you might be going, oh, Megan, like, you don't know my story, girl. But even so, like, you're here today, right? So, like, you survived, you lived, like, even your worst decisions, you're here today. And there's actually a mental strategy referred to as like pre-mortem or negative visualization, which sounds very negative, but it can be, but it actually works for your good. So like negative visualization or pre-mortem is, it's where you are imagining the worst case scenario or like potential failures in a situation like before it occurs. So if you're thinking about something and you are indecisive about it and you're like afraid of failure or afraid something might go wrong, lean into that and ask yourself the question, like, what's the worst that could happen if I made this decision? And like examples could be like, it's like, what if I start my own business and I fail? What if I start my own business and it's not a success? And what happens next? Like I've had to ask myself that when I started my business and when I quit my very comfy, cozy corporate job that paid very well, by the way, and I had to go all in on my business. I'm like, what if I fail? What if I fail? And then, but I also have to ask myself, what if I don't? What if it's a success? Right. But even with let's go down the path of what if I fail? I literally was like, okay, if I fail, I could get another job somewhere. Like, even if it's McDonald's, I'm not above working at McDonald's or anything else. Like, okay, I know I could get a job somewhere else to like make ends meet. And also at the end of the day, I'm like, okay, my parents don't live too far away. Like if I went broke and I had to sell my house and I, had to go live with my parents for a time, like, okay, so that's like my worst case scenario, right? That's not too bad. Like love my parents, that'd be fine. I could go live with them for some time. I know we don't all have family around that we have that blessing that that's a possibility, but like ask yourself for your situation, what is the worst thing that could happen? You probably have some friend, someone that whose couch you could crash at the end of the day. If you had no family and like one friend, you could probably crash their couch for a few weeks or a few months, right? Until you get your feet on the ground. Like just think about that worst case scenario. And for most of us, it's probably not that bad. Like whatever the worst case is, it's actually not that bad at the end of the day. Other examples could be like, what if I sign up for this coaching program and it doesn't work for me? Right? Like that's a conversation I have with so many clients before they get started, is talking them through that fear of like, what if it doesn't work for me? Or what if I can't, like, what if I don't pull my weight on my end of things? Like, what if I don't follow through? And I'm like, well, hun, people who pay attention. So first of all, that's why you're signing up for accountability and, having someone to hold your feet to the fire. But also, okay, let's say it doesn't work for you. What's the worst case that happens? You wasted some money, right? That sucks. Okay, moving on. What about all the diets that you tried in the past that haven't worked? Like Did you die afterwards? No. Like you just moved on. It sucked. You got burned. Oh, well. But it's like, don't let one thing that burned you in the past burn you from taking chances and making decisions in the future, right? So like, what's the worst that could happen? Probably nothing. Like maybe your body doesn't change that much, or maybe you do like completely drop the ball. Like, what's the worst case scenario? Probably not that bad. What if, even if it's like, what if I move to a new state and I hate it? Okay. Like, you can probably move back in a couple of months. Like there's all these things that we're so indecisive. We can't make decisions because we are so afraid of failure, and we're actually crippling ourselves from the possible success. We're not asking ourselves the question, what if this works? What if this works? We have to ask ourselves that question. So I would encourage you, if you have a situation that you're afraid to take action on, ask yourself, go through that negative, sequence, that pre-mortem, and go like, okay, what would be the worst outcome if I did follow through on this? And it will probably give you reassurance that you'll live. It won't be that bad. And it's probably worth the risk of trying it. And the Latin word for decide, you guys, so to make a decision, the Latin word decide means to cut off. If you were to translate that, it means to cut off. So which side of you do you want to cut off today? Do you want to cut off the past version of you that isn't serving you well? That person that you don't really enjoy being, or the person that's kind of stuck, the one that oversleeps, the one that says she wants to make a change, but never actually does anything about it. The one that self-sabotages and blames circumstances for her lack of inaction. Do you want to cut off that person of you? Or do you want to cut off the future you? Do you want to cut off the one who actually takes ownership, the one who takes action and doesn't make excuses, like the one who takes risks, the one who feels the fear and does it anyway? Do you want to cut off that version of you? Like when you make a decision, you are cutting off. That Latin word is literally to cut off. You are cutting off something. So when you make that decision, it can give you clarity. But when you sit in indecision, you sit in the gray. So like make that decision, decide which part of you do you want to cut off, right? Even if it's about food, right? So it's like, do I want to have the third bowl of ice cream? Do I want to cut myself off from that third bowl of ice cream and be more of the person who has, moderation, uses moderation? Or do I want to go balls to the walls and finish all of the ice cream and cut myself off from that person who I want to become? So you could apply this to anything, right? And so one thing that can help, and also guys, I have to apologize too, if I have like a righteous, gnarly burp in the middle of this podcast, it's because I am drinking some raw kombucha, and that stuff, man, that makes you burp. But anyway, another thing I want to share with you guys, if you find yourself in this indecisive place or struggling with decisions, is the 24-hour rule. And as most rules, I find that they're not really rules. Like if it took you 26 hours or 30 hours or whatever, it's probably okay. But the 24-hour rule is to make a decision within 24 hours. Most people, I will say most, don't make decisions too hastily. Yes, there are the people out there that like, they spin, and they make super hasty decisions and whatever. But most people, the majority, don't make decisions too quickly. They delay decision-making until it's too late. So they're so like bogged down with just thinking about it and churning it over in their minds and thinking of like worst outcome and like, what if they're asking themselves all those questions, and they actually delay decision-making until it's too late, or they end up way worse off than if they had just made the decision a week ago or a month ago or a freaking year ago. Like I talked to so many women who have actually had some conversations, even let's speak about the fitness and health space. They were hesitant or fearful to start the program or their journey. And then a year later, they've signed up for coaching and they're like, man, I wish I had done this like a year ago because I'm still in the exact same spot or worse. And I wish I had done it a year ago. And I'm like, you know what? But you're here now. When is the best time to plant a tree? 5 years ago, because you'd have fruit today, right? If you plant a tree 5 years ago, you'll have fruit today. But when is the second best time to plant a tree? That's today. So you making a decision today, even if you wish you had made it a year ago, is still better. But like think like that. Like, if you don't make a decision, you're probably just going to let time pass and be in the same exact place this time next year, or maybe even worse off. And whatever your fear is, or whatever is like in your environment that is holding you back, whether that is finances or time, etc., like trust yourself to figure it out and get resourceful. Like I want you to actually label yourself as a resourceful person, because I think a lot of times we also act like the victim of our finances or the victim of our time, the victim of our life, but we have to take ownership and we have to label ourselves as a resourceful person. Like ask yourself, how can I create the time? How can I create more time in my schedule? What can I move around? How can I earn extra income or move around my finances to make this work? Whatever it is, whether that is coaching, whether that is a new car, whatever, whether that is sports for your kids, like whatever it is, when you're going like, oh shoot, I have to pick between this or that, that's like that limited mindset. We want that abundance mindset of okay, like how can I do this and this? How can I make both happen? How can I earn extra income to make this work? What can I move around? I've talked to someone the other day who was signing up for my program. She was like, you know what? I have some subscriptions I want to cancel. I'm going to get resourceful and I'm going to make it happen. So do that in your life. Like, and this is not just applied to coaching, like do this in your life. Ask yourself, how can I make this work? And label yourself as that resourceful person. Because when you ask yourself these questions, you actually allow yourself the capacity to get creative and resourceful, versus if you're making statements like, I can't afford this, or I'm just so busy, I don't have the time. Like those statements will shut down your resourcefulness. They will not open up your mind to the possibilities. So those statements shut down resourcefulness, while a question that you ask yourself will actually open yourself up to the possibilities. And also, you guys, like when we get down to it, indecisiveness is a decision. Like you are making the decision to not take action, and not taking action is going to, one, hold you back from accomplishing bigger and better things. You're not going to accomplish things that you would have if you had made a decision, if you stay stuck in that gray, indecisive area. And two, it creates fear and anxiety and regret. Indecisive people have more anxiety, they have more regret. And like, not to get too dark on us over here, but when I'm on my deathbed, like I don't want to look back on my life and go, man, I wish I had done that. I wish I had done XYZ. Or like, I wish I had put my fear to the side and just gone for it. Like I can handle on my deathbed if I look back and I regret making some choices because they were my choices. I made those choices. But what I can't live with is the regret of not doing something that I wish I had done. So like, make that decision for yourself. So like, my encouragement to you today is, no matter what you are considering, no matter what area of life, business, relationships, health, kids, dynamics, in-law dynamics, whatever, promise yourself that you will make a decision, and give yourself a deadline. Like actually give yourself a deadline to make a decision, preferably within 24 hours, because of that 24-hour rule. Because most of the time when we tell ourselves or someone else, yeah, quote unquote, I need to think about it. Girl, we don't actually go home, sit on our rocking chair on the front porch, throw our feet up and actually think about it. Like we don't, right? Like when you say I need to think about it, do you actually go and sit down and think about it? Or do you fret about it? And also life gets crazy, time passes, and all of a sudden it's this time next year and we are no closer to making our goals and dreams a reality. Like that's where I've been with decisions that I've put on the back burner because, I was thinking about it. I need to think about it. I need to think more about it. And for any of my, Christian listeners out there, don't use prayer and Jesus as an excuse to not make a decision. Okay. So, like the whole, I need to quote unquote pray on it, but you're not actually praying on it. You're just using that as an excuse to not make a decision. But, that's between you and God. Only if you're using that as an excuse or not. But I know I have done that myself of like, I need to pray on it, or just, I need to, I want to stay kind of stuck in this comfortable gray area versus making a decision because of fear of failure, fear of making the wrong choice, all the things we talked about. But anyway, what I am saying is, if you want to make life-changing decisions, if you want to change your life and make life-changing decisions, then you've got to make a decision. It starts with making a decision. So take some of the tips that I gave you in this episode, apply it. What are those things that are causing you anxiety, or like, what are you fretting over right now? Like, make a decision. It will be like a weight lifted off of your shoulders. And if it's the wrong decision, go through that exercise of like, what's the worst that could happen? You will probably be okay afterwards. But what if it goes right? What if it goes so right and so well? Like, you're going to be so thankful that you made the decision. So that is how you're going to change your life. And as always, thank you so much for listening to the show. If you found this helpful or insightful, share it with a friend or take a screenshot and share it to your stories. That'll help others hear the show who really need to hear it. And I'll catch you guys on the next episode.